What's up YouTube, this is Demkeys back again with another Unity tutorial, and this is going to be an introduction to Unity. What is Unity? Unity is a game engine, a very powerful game engine that can be used to make 2D and 3D games. It supports development across major platforms such as Xbox, PlayStation, Windows, Android, iOS, etc. There are a few more in the list. It supports 3 languages: C#, JavaScript, and Boo. Where can you download Unity? Well, you can copy and paste this address in your address bar and it should take you to the Unity download page. For whatever reason, if the link doesn't work, just go to unity3d.com and you should be able to find the download page. There'll be a download link over there which will take you to the download page. Alright, now there are two versions of Unity. One is Basic, one is Pro. So what is the difference between Basic and Pro? Well, Basic is completely free. Pro, on the other hand, is not. However, Pro has better features than Basic. But if you're a beginner, you do not need Pro, believe me. My suggestion would be you download Basic, activate the free license, which is basically a basic license, and learn to use Unity. And once you've studied all the features, if you feel that you need Pro, then buy it. Alright, so once you've downloaded the setup, you have to install it, and it may or may not ask you whether you want to install MonoDevelop. It should. If it does, then install MonoDevelop as well. And once you've installed it, when you start up Unity, there should be an icon of Unity on your desktop, or maybe not. I don't know if the setup gives you the option or not. Well, yeah, anyways, when you start up Unity for the very first time, you're gonna have to activate a license. This is where you get to choose whether you want to activate your free license or you want to activate a 30-day trial of Pro. In this case, you'll have to activate your free license. You're gonna have to register. All those steps will be mentioned over there, and you can register real quick and activate your free license. Once you've done that, you can start up Unity, and at that point you should see this show up on your screen. This is what's going to show up before Unity starts up. And then you should have this welcome to Unity, this dialog show up as well. You have some really helpful links over here, and this is the editor itself. We're going to start by creating an empty project. There are two ways to do this. Let me close Unity, and I recommend that you do the same. Alright, now double click this icon, and as soon as you're done double clicking, instantly press Alt. So you do this real quick. Double click, Alt, and then you have this project wizard pop up in front of you. This is where you can open previous projects, or you can also create a new project. Let's create a new project. First I'm going to set the project location. You can set it to whatever you want. I'll call this my first project. Alright, so now that the project location has been set, we can move on to other settings. Next, you have a list of asset packages. Asset packages are, well, as the name suggests, they are packages with assets. Let's take an example of the character controller asset package. This is a standard asset package, meaning it comes with Unity. In fact, this all the way up to, I think, Water Pro, all of these come with Unity. That's what they're called, standard assets. But of course you can download asset packages from the asset store as well. Some of them are free, some of them need to be purchased. So yeah, let's take an example of character controller just so you can understand what asset packages are exactly. So the character controller asset package contains two prefabs. One is, I'll explain prefabs. Well, I don't think I'll explain prefabs, but let's just say uh, the character controller package contains an FPS character and a third person character as well. The FPS character is basically a capsule with a camera attached to it and a bunch of scripts attached and a bunch of other components, and all you need to do is place this one object in your scene, and when you run the game you'll actually be able to control this character as if it were an FPS game, and when you move your mouse around the character's camera is going to move here and there. It's basically a mouse look script. That is just one example. Then you have image effects. This adds image effects. Things like, I don't know, anti-aliasing, what else? Um, bloom, glow, all these things. You have light flares. For example, if you're looking at the sun, you might want some sort of really bright flare, or if you're looking at the sun through a camera lens, you might want that kind of or through a sniper scope, for example. You might want to have those circles that show up in the scope. So package this package provides you with light flares that you can use. And then you have particles. This is basic particle effects like smoke, dust, fire, things like that. Again, very useful. So you get what asset packages are. We are not going to import any asset packages, so make sure all of these are unchecked. Next you have setup defaults for. This is going to tell Unity whether you are creating a 2D project or a 3D project. The difference being, well, alright, I'll explain it once the project is created. Select 2D. Now just go over this again. You've set your project location. You do not need to import any asset packages, and you choose 2D over here and then click create. So Unity has now created a project for me. You can see the name over here, my first project. My apologies for this, I still haven't changed my recording software. Alright, some of the differences between 2D and 3D editor mode would be the main camera is set to orthographic instead of perspective, and that is in 2D mode. Also, when you import an image into your project, the image is automatically set as a sprite rather than as a texture. If the editor was in 3D mode, then the image would be imported and automatically be set as a texture. Alright, so let's take a look at panels. These tabs that you see over here are all panels. These panels can be moved around, placed anywhere else. If you're using a dual monitor, or I don't know, triple monitor, whatever, tri-monitor, if you're using more than one monitor, basically you can actually drag this window into, or this panel into another screen and maximize it over there. So this can be very useful when you're working on a very big project, and you can't really use one screen. It looks really cramped up. And this is not just for the scene view, it's for any of these tabs. These tabs can be moved around in whatever way you like. You can make it as a separate window as well. Now, well, this is not the only way to customize your layout. You can also select presets over here like 2x3, force split, default. Let's take a look at 2x3. You can see the tabs, the panels have been rearranged. Each Layout has its own benefit. This is for those of you who like that 3ds Max style view. Then you have default, of course. And let's say you have created your own layout and you like it. You don't want to change it. You want to, in fact, you want to use this layout more than once. You actually want to save this layout. The way to do that is click on this drop down menu and select save layout. You can choose a name. I'll call this my layout, and then it's saved. After that I can change it to default if I need to, or change it to whatever else I need, and then at whatever point in time I need to change it to my layout, I can do that. Next, let's take a look at opening these different windows through the window menu. You click window and you have a list of all of these panels that you can open up. You can select anything like maybe game or animation or profiler. Well, you might not have profiler because you're using basic. What else? Asset store. Well, you get the point. So you can open up new windows using the Windows menu as well. And even here you can select layouts. You have the layout menu basically over here. All of these are different windows that you can open up. I'll be explaining each of these windows. Well, not all the windows from this list, but the ones that you see over here, just to keep the tutorial short. Alright, so first let's look at scene view. The scene view is pretty much your workspace. This is where you'll be adding all the objects. Basically, this is where you'll design your level. This is where you'll add colliders. This is where you'll place your images. Next you have, oh, by the way, you can have multiple scene views as well. For whatever reason, if you want to look at look at something from this zoom level in this scene, and you want to look at something with this zoom level in this scene, then you can do that as well. To add an extra scene view, you can right click over here and click add tab and click scene. I'm not sure if that works with the window menu itself. No, I don't think it does, but yeah, this is pretty easy. Next you have the game tab or the game view, the game panel. This is what's going to show your game being played. Once you hit the play button, your game is going to be shown over here in action. You can have multiple game tabs as well. I can't think of a scenario where you would need multiple game tabs, but I'm sure there must be some use of it. Yes, before we continue, I should explain these three controls. This is to play the game. Then you've got pause. This, you can pause the game at whatever frame it is, and once you pause it, you can actually skip frames using this button here. Next you have the hierarchy. This is going to show you all the objects that are there in the scene. For now we have only the main camera. Alright, so let's add another object to our scene view. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. First of all, you have this create menu over here. You can click this and choose create empty or create one of these. If your menu looks a little different than mine, you're probably using Unity 4.5. Don't worry, it's nothing to worry about. The items are still there, you just need to look around. The other way to create an object or to place an object in the scene would be through the game object menu. You can select, you have the same options over here that you have in this menu. So let's create a quad. So you can see a square has been placed over here. This is a quad, and also an object named quad has been placed in the hierarchy. When you select, wait, right now quad and the main camera are both in the same position, so you can't notice the position handle changing. This is the position handle, or let's say these are the position handles. This is for Y, this is for X, and if we were looking at it from a 3D perspective, then you would see Z's position handle as well. Right now we are in 2D mode, but there are times when you would actually want to look at your scene, your 2D scene from a 3D perspective. In that case, you should click this button over here, and it's going to move to 3D mode, and then you can just move around the scene and look at it as if it was a 3D scene. I'm going to move this quad by clicking on this red arrow and then clicking on the green arrow as well. You can also click on this square over here and move it around easily. So now you can see we have two objects here in the scene. One is the quad, one is the main camera. You can select both of these individually. You can also select both of them by selecting one and then holding down control and selecting the other, and both of them are selected. Now if I move this position handle, or this, I forgot what this is called, but if I move this, you'll notice that the quad moves along with the camera. Alternatively, if I select the quad first and I select main camera after that, the position handle is here, and then, so you get the point. Next, let's take a look at the inspector. This is the inspector. Every game object will have its properties or its components displayed in the inspector. You can basically inspect an object using the inspector. You have a couple of options over here. First of all, the name. You can change the name to, let's say, my box. You can enable or disable an object. You'll notice now that I've unchecked this, the object is not shown over here, just its position handle is shown, and the object has been grayed out over here. It is not there in the scene right now. Let's enable this again. Next, you have tags. You can choose which tag you want to apply to this, which tag you want to set for this object. I'm not going to get into tags. Now you can select which layer this object is in. I'm not going to get into layers either. Next, let's take a look at the components. Each of these are components that have been added to this quad. First of all, you have the transform component. This gives the object its position and its rotation and its scale. You know what position is, that is this. Notice now I'm going to move this object, and notice the X and Y values. You see them changing. This is because I'm changing the position of the quad. Next, you have rotation. You can rotate the object. Press E on your keyboard and your control should change, and then you can rotate the object. Next, you have scale. To switch to the scale tool, press R, and then you'll see different handles over here. You can scale it along the x-axis, along the y-axis. You can also scale it along the x-axis, and I guess you would call this uniform scale or general scale. Basically scaling along the x and the y-axis. To undo any changes that you have made, you can press Ctrl Z. Let me explain these controls over here. This is the hand tool. This can be used to move around the scene. I believe this is called panning. Next you have the move tool. This can be used to move the object around. You have the rotate tool, we just looked at it. You have the scale tool, we just looked at it. I'm not going to explain this because if you're using Unity 4.5 you probably don't have this. If you're using 4.6 then this is used mostly for UI elements. Shortcuts for each of these controls is Q for the hand tool, W for the move tool, E for the rotate tool, and R for the scale tool. Alright, moving on, you have a couple of other components within this game object. I'm not going to explain all of these. You get the point, you know what components are now. You can actually add more components as required, as needed. Let's say for example, physics 2D, rigid body 2D. Rigid body 2D is within physics 2D. It says here cannot add this because there is a mesh collider attached to the quad. So let's remove this and then add it. Now let's run the game and see what happens. When you run the game, it automatically switches to the game tab. And you'll notice the quad just started to fall. The reason it started to fall was because I added this rigid body 2D component. This adds physical properties, things like mass, gravity, other stuff as well. Alright, let's remove this rigid body 2D component. So I'm going to add a script to this object. To do that you click add component, new script, and here you can enter the name of the script. Let's call it move script. You also need to select the language of the script. Make sure it's set to C# because the script that I'm typing is going to be in C#. Hit enter and the script has been created for you. You'll notice here in the project panel under assets you have something called move script. What this means is that Unity has created a script file named move script. So if you go into the physical directory, or let's say the directory of the game, you will actually find a file like this. It's going to be called movescript.cs. So select the quad and double click on move script. This is going to open up the script in MonoDevelop, and I'm not going to explain what I'm typing. Just copy me. It's a few lines of code, so just copy me. The reason why I'm not explaining is because it might make the tutorial long. That's why. Once you've typed these lines, hit Control S to save the script and then go back to Unity. You'll notice this thing over here. This is basically applying any changes that need to be applied. In this case, I don't know if you noticed it earlier or not, this field move force was not there. It's there now because I've created a public float variable called move force. Change this value to 0.2 and now run the game. Now when you press A or D or the left and right arrow keys, you should be able to move your object around. For those of you who are having trouble seeing your object or basically cannot see your object. Uh, First of all, make sure that the quad is within the frustum of the camera or within the view of the camera, because if the camera cannot see the object, it's not going to show up in the game view. Second, if you notice that when you run your game, the object falls like it did earlier, you might have forgotten to remove the rigid body 2D component, so just make sure you do that. To remove it, you just right click on it and click remove component. Okay, so let's take a look at the project panel. Well, you already understood what it is. It contains all the assets. Here you can create more assets, things like, well, for the purpose of organization, you can create folders like, say, a scripts folder, and you can drag and drop the script into that folder. And the good thing is you don't even need to reattach the script to this object. You can move this file around anywhere within the project and it will still remain attached to this script. You can create other things like scripts like we did earlier. Earlier we clicked add component and created a script using that method, but you can also do this C# script and call this test script. You can name it whatever you want and you don't even need to add the name script at the end. Once you've created this, you can drag and drop it into whatever object you want to attach the script to, or you can select that object, click add component and go to scripts, not new script, and then you can select the script. There it is. You can create other things like shaders, that's a whole other topic, prefabs. Uh, Again, I'm not gonna explain this because it's gonna make the tutorial longer. You can create materials and many other things. Alternatively, you can also click on the assets menu and create it from here. It's gonna have the same effect. Next you have the console window. This is where things like errors and warnings and other messages that you might want to display, things like debug.log. Let's go back to the script in MonoDevelop. If it's not open, like so, then you can go back to your project panel and open it from here, or you can select my box and double click move script. That's going to open it up in MonoDevelop. Go to the last line, or well, just follow what I'm doing. Once you have written this, save the script using Control S and then go back to Unity and run the game. Before you run the game, no, okay, it's fine. Run the game and click on, actually first click on this console here. Ignore this error, it's coming because I was not connected to the internet and I tried to open up the asset store. Alright, so make sure you've selected the console panel, so it's going to show you the console, and click play. And now when you move your object around, you should see these messages popping up. So this is another thing you can use the console window for. Something I forgot to mention earlier. If you want to see your game in full screen, when you click play, click maximize on play. What this is going to do is it's going to take up the entire window, and then you can see it much bigger and much better. You can also select the aspect ratio, like 5:4 or 16:10. I think you can also add your own. I'm going to change it back to free aspect. Alright, next let's look at saving scenes. To save a scene, you hit Ctrl S and it should give you the option. This save scene dialog should open up. You can choose whatever name you want and hit save. When you go back to the project panel and click on assets, earlier we were in the scripts folder. When you click on assets, you'll see level 1 with this icon. This is a scene that has been saved. At this point, we can create a new scene and add a bunch of other things to it. Let's say lights, more cameras, more lights, whatever, and we can save that as level 2, or again whatever name you want, and then you have level 2 over here. So this is how you work with different scenes. So yeah, this was an intro to Unity. I hope this helps any beginners out there. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Do check out these other videos as well. The video on the top left teaches you how to use the line renderer. The video on the top right teaches you how to use lens flares, and on the bottom left is a playlist for the Unity 4.6 UI Tools series. I'm also accepting donations, so if you would like to help me out, you can send your donations to my PayPal email address, which is mentioned on the screen and in the description down below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Leave your comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.
Is he grow? Is he fame? Is he even still the same? Claiming Lord's boys, but we never seen him main. Out on cover, now on album when he get the chance to hang. Like, damn, 134. Niggas acting like I never been through them doors. Moved uptown and I rocked a little red. Niggas asking if I'm raw cause I'm out in Hempstead. Like, shit, who are you? Entourage member or part of the crew? EMG